The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was bigger than most cities. Thousands of beings from hundreds of different worlds sat in floating seats that moved up and down the massive walls. The air smelled like metal and strange flowers. Strange sounds came from the translator machines as different species talked to each other. Ambassador Kang walked to the center of the hall. He was tall for a human with gray hair and calm eyes. His simple black uniform looked plain next to the colorful robes and shining armor of the other ambassadors. But everyone in the hall watched him with fear in their eyes. Behind him walked Commander Yoon. She was younger than Kang, with short black hair and scars on her hands. She did not wear any weapons, but her presence made the alien delegates move back in their seats. Some of the smaller species actually hid behind their bigger friends. Kang stopped at the speaking platform. The hall became quiet. Even the translator machines seemed to whisper now. "Honored council members," Kang said in his clear voice, "the Terran Federation requests permission to expand into the Outer Rim territories. These worlds are empty and perfect for human colonies." A wave of worried sounds filled the hall. The insect-like Vectar delegates made clicking sounds with their claws. The blue-skinned Altarians whispered to each other in their musical language. The rock creatures from Granite Prime just sat still, but their red eyes glowed brighter with worry. High Priest Morthek of the Thaxian Empire stood up. He was 8 feet tall with purple skin and 4 arms. Golden rings covered all his fingers. His voice was deep and scary when he spoke. "The Council must remember what humans have already done," Morthek said. "In the past 100 years, they have taken over 12 star systems. Not through trade or friendship, but through war." Commander Yoon did not move or speak, but her dark eyes looked at Morthek. The High Priest stopped talking for a moment, then continued in a quieter voice. "The Battle of Red Canyon," Morthek said. 3,000 human soldiers fought against 30,000 Zaneki warriors. The Zaneki were bigger, stronger, and had better weapons. They should have won easily. But the humans did something impossible. The hall became even more quiet. Everyone knew this story, but hearing it again made them scared. "The humans let the Zaneki surround them," Morthek continued. "Then they used their own blood to poison the water supply. Zaneki cannot drink poisoned water, but humans can survive it. Half the Zaneki army died from thirst. The other half was too weak to fight." A small, furry delegate from the 6R system made a scared whimpering sound. Her translator spoke in a tiny voice. "Humans drink poison water and use their own blood as weapons. How do we fight something like that?" Kang waited for the worried sounds to stop. Then he spoke again. "The Terran Federation has always followed galactic law," he said. "We only fight when others attack us first. We want peace with all species." "Peace?" Morthek laughed, but it was not a happy sound. "Tell that to the Corvin raiders who attacked your mining ship last year." "Oh wait, you cannot. There are no Corvin raiders left." Commander Yoon finally spoke. Her voice was quiet, but everyone could hear her clearly. "The Corvin raiders killed 200 human miners," she said, "including children. We asked them to surrender. They chose to fight instead. And you killed them all," Morthek said. "Every single one. 50,000 raiders gone in 3 days. They made their choice," Yoon replied. The Altarian delegate, a beautiful woman with blue skin and silver hair, stood up. Her voice sounded like music, but sad music. "We understand that humans fight to protect themselves," she said, "but the way you fight scares us. Other species fight with weapons and ships. Humans fight with everything. You use planets as weapons. You turn your own bodies into bombs. You make friends with your enemies just to betray them later. We adapt," Kang said simply. "That is what humans do. We survive." An old turtle-like being from the slow world spoke up. His voice was very slow and deep. "In our long lives, we have seen many species rise and fall. But humans are different. Most species reach a limit and stop growing. Humans never stop. They always become more dangerous." Dr. Park sat in the human section of the hall. She was a small woman with thick glasses and gentle eyes. She worked for the Human Medical Corps and took care of sick people. But even she made some aliens nervous because she understood how human bodies worked so well. Dr. Park looked at her data pad. She read the latest reports from the border worlds. Humans were fighting 3 different wars right now. In each war, they were outnumbered and outgunned. In each war, they were winning anyway. On the planet Dustworld, human soldiers were fighting the crystal beings called Shardraks. The Shardraks could cut through any armor with their razor-sharp bodies. But humans had learned to use the planet's sandstorms to confuse the Shardrak sensors. Now the crystal beings were losing their own planet. In the Void Nebula, human ships were fighting the energy creatures called Voltians. Voltian ships were made of pure electricity and could move at the speed of light. But humans had found a way to use the nebula's magnetic fields to trap the Voltians in energy cages. On the ice moon of Frozen Tears, human marines were fighting the cold-loving Frostkin. The temperature was so low that most species would die in minutes. But humans just put on special suits and kept fighting. Some of them had even learned to fight without the suits, training their bodies to survive in the deadly cold. Dr. Park smiled as she read these reports. Other species thought humans were already too dangerous. They had no idea what humans could really do when they tried their hardest. The debate in the council hall went on for hours. Species after species stood up to talk about human battles. Each story was more incredible than the last. Humans who fought for days without sleep. Humans who survived in space without air suits. Humans who made weapons from garbage and rocks. Finally, the council leader called for quiet. She was an ancient being called a keeper, with skin like tree bark and eyes like stars. The council will vote on the human expansion request, she said. But first we must ask the important question. Ambassador Kang, are these stories true? Can humans really do all these impossible things? Kang looked around the hall. He saw fear in thousands of alien eyes, fear of his species, fear of what humans might do next. Yes, he said quietly. The stories are true, but you should know something else. Everything you have seen, every battle you fear, every impossible victory that scares you. Those were just our regular soldiers. The hall became dead silent. Our regular soldiers, Kang repeated. The humans you have seen fighting across the galaxy are farmers, shopkeepers, teachers, and factory workers who learned to fight when they had to. They are not even real warriors. Commander Yoon stepped forward. For the first time, she smiled. It was not a nice smile. The Terran Federation has real warriors, she said. We call them commandos, but we have never needed to use them. Our regular people have been enough to handle every threat so far. The silence in the hall was so complete that Dr. Park could hear her own heartbeat. She looked around at the thousands of alien faces. They all showed the same expression, pure terror. The vote was unanimous. The humans got their expansion rights. Every single species in the council voted yes. Nobody wanted to find out what would happen if they said no. As the council session ended, species delegates hurried away from the human section. They whispered to each other in their own languages, but Dr. Park's translator caught some of the words. Real warriors. Commandos. What have we been fighting all this time? Dr. Park closed her datapad and followed Ambassador Kang and Commander Yoon out of the hall. She thought about the secret files on her computer. Files about the Shadow Battalion. Files about humans who had pushed their bodies and minds beyond normal limits. Files about warriors who could do things that even other humans thought were impossible. The galaxy was scared of regular humans. Dr. Park wondered what they would do if they ever met the commandos. She hoped they would never have to find out. Admiral Ko was drinking coffee in her office when the alarm started screaming. The hot liquid spilled on her uniform as she jumped up and ran to the command center. Red lights flashed everywhere. Officers ran back and forth shouting orders and reports. What's happening? Ko demanded as she reached the main screen. Lieutenant Jin turned from his station with fear in his eyes. Admiral, we're getting distress calls from New Busan Colony. They're under attack. The big screen showed a map of human space. New Busan was a small green dot on the outer edge. But now the dot was flashing red. More red dots appeared near it, then more. The Krolix Empire was attacking with a huge fleet. How many ships? Ko asked. Over 500, Admiral. Maybe more. Our sensors can't count them all. Ko felt cold inside. The Krolix Empire ruled 47 star systems. They had the biggest and strongest military in the galaxy. For 100 years they had stayed in their own space and left other species alone. Now they were attacking humans without any warning. Get me Governor Park on New Busan, Ko ordered. The screen changed to show a man's face. Governor Park looked scared and tired. Behind him, Ko could see explosions lighting up the sky. Admiral Ko, Park shouted over the sound of bombing. They came out of nowhere. Hundreds of ships just appeared and started shooting. We never had a chance to surrender. How long can you hold out? Ko asked. Maybe 6 hours. Our shields are already failing. The orbital defense stations are gone. Admiral, they're not trying to capture the colony. They're trying to kill everyone. Ko's hands made fists. We're sending help. Hold on as long as you can. The screen went black. Ko turned to her officers. How fast can we get ships to New Busan? Captain Lee looked at his computer. Our nearest battle group is 12 hours away, Admiral. By then, everyone will be dead, Ko finished. She hit her communication button. Send a message to all human fleets. Emergency mobilization. We're at war. On the surface of New Busan, Captain Lee of the Colonial Defense Force ran through burning streets. Buildings fell down around him as Krolix bombs exploded everywhere. The alien ships in the sky looked like giant metal insects with glowing red eyes. Captain, Sergeant Nam appeared from behind a destroyed car. His uniform was torn and bloody. The spaceport is gone. No way to evacuate civilians. Lee looked around at the chaos. Families with children ran past them, trying to find somewhere safe to hide. But there was nowhere safe. The Krolix were destroying everything. Take your squad to the emergency shelters, Lee ordered. Get as many people underground as possible. What about you, sir? I'm going to the defense center. Maybe we can still fight back. Lee ran through the streets as Krolix drop pods fell from the sky like metal rain. Each pod was big as a house. When they hit the ground, they opened up to release Krolix soldiers. Lee had never seen a Krolix warrior before. They were huge, maybe 9 feet tall, with bodies covered in natural armor that looked like black metal. They had 6 arms and moved like deadly spiders. Their weapons shot beams of blue light that could cut through anything. At the defense center, Major Kim was trying to coordinate the remaining human forces. But the reports coming in were all bad news. Sector 7 is overrun, reported one officer. Sector 12 has gone silent. Sector 3 is requesting immediate evacuation. What about our weapons? Lee asked as he arrived. Can we hurt them? Kim shook his head. Our rifles just bounce off their armor. Our missiles can't lock onto their ships, and they seem to know exactly what we're going to do before we do it. Lee understood. The Krolix had studied human fighting tactics for years. They knew how human soldiers thought and moved. Every strategy humans used, the Krolix had already planned a counter-strategy. A new voice came over the radio. It was Colonel Park from the orbital station. This is Station Alpha. We're being boarded by Krolix assault troops. They're cutting through our hull like paper. We can't... Wait, there's something else. The radio made static sounds, then Colonel Park spoke again. But now his voice was different. Scared. They're not just better armed than us. They're smarter. Their armor adapts to our weapons. Their tactics change every time we try something new. It's like fighting an enemy that can read our minds. The radio went silent. Station Alpha was gone. Lee looked at the tactical display. Red marks showed where Krolix forces were advancing. They moved in perfect coordination, like parts of a giant machine. No human force had ever faced an enemy this organized and deadly. Sir? Sergeant Nam's voice came through Lee's communicator. The shelters are full, but the Krolix found them anyway. They're using some kind of scanning device that can see through solid rock. Lee closed his eyes. Even underground, people were not safe. In space above New Busan, the battle was even more hopeless. Captain Yoon commanded the human destroyer Braveheart. It was one of only 3 human warships that had been near the colony when the attack started. Fire everything we have, Yoon ordered. The Braveheart shot missiles and energy beams at the Krolix fleet. Most of the shots missed because the alien ships moved too fast. The few hits that connected barely scratched the enemy's shields. Captain, they're surrounding us, reported the weapons officer. Yoon watched on the main screen as hundreds of Krolix ships moved into position. Each enemy ship was twice as big as the Braveheart and had much better weapons. This is Captain Yoon to all human ships. We can't win this fight, but we can buy time for the people on the ground. Ram the biggest enemy ship you can find. Captain, the pilot looked shocked. You heard me. Set course for their command ship. Full speed. The Braveheart turned toward the largest Krolix vessel. It was massive, maybe 50 times bigger than the human ship. But if they could damage it, maybe they could slow down the invasion for a few more minutes. Before they could reach the enemy ship, blue energy beams hit the Braveheart from 3 directions. The human ship exploded in a ball of fire and metal. Back on the surface, Major Kim received the last reports from space. All human ships were destroyed. The colony was completely cut off. How long before the main fleet arrives? He asked. An officer checked his computer. 10 hours, sir. Maybe 11. Kim looked at the tactical display again. The red marks were everywhere now. Human defenders were retreating from every sector. We don't have 10 hours, Kim said quietly. Captain Lee's radio crackled. All units, this is General Choi from Fleet Command. We're tracking your situation. Hold your positions as long as possible. Help is coming, Lee almost laughed. Help was coming, but it would arrive too late. In a few hours, New Busan would be a dead world. But then General Choi said something else, something that made Lee stop and listen carefully. New Busan Defense Force, you have fought bravely against impossible odds. But now it's time to show the Krolix what humans can really do. I'm authorizing the deployment of the Shadow Battalion. Lee had heard rumors about the Shadow Battalion. Every human soldier had heard the stories. Elite warriors who could do impossible things. But Lee had always thought they were just stories to scare the enemy. The Shadow Battalion is real? He asked over the radio. General Choi's voice was quiet but confident. Captain Lee, everything the galaxy fears about humans, they've only seen the beginning. The Krolix Empire thinks they understand human warfare. They're about to learn how wrong they are. The radio went silent. Lee looked around at his surviving soldiers. They were tired, hurt, and scared. But now there was something else in their eyes. Hope. Major Kim walked over to Lee. Shadow Battalion? Who are they? I don't know, Lee admitted. But if General Choi thinks they can help, then maybe we can hold out a little longer. Outside, the Krolix continued their attack. Their ships filled the sky like a swarm of metal locusts. Their soldiers marched through the streets in perfect formation. Their weapons destroyed everything humans had built on New Busan. But somewhere in space, moving toward the battle, ships that did not appear on any sensors carried warriors that no alien species had ever encountered. The Krolix had studied human tactics for decades. They had prepared for every strategy human soldiers might use. They had not prepared for the Commandos. Sergeant Nam found Captain Lee in the ruins of the defense center. Half the building had been destroyed by Krolix bombs, but the humans were still fighting from the basement. Captain, we're getting reports from other colonies, Nam said. The Krolix are attacking everywhere. 12 worlds are under assault. Maybe more. Lee felt the weight of the news. This was not just an attack on New Busan. The Krolix Empire was trying to destroy all human colonies in one massive strike. They planned this perfectly, Lee said. Hit us everywhere at once so we can't help each other. But sir, if the Shadow Battalion is real, then we'll see if the stories are true, Lee finished. Either way, we keep fighting until help arrives or until we're all dead. Nam nodded and went back to his post. Lee looked up through a hole in the ceiling at the dark sky full of enemy ships. Soon, very soon, the galaxy would learn whether humans had been hiding their true strength all along. The Krolix thought they were fighting against humanity's best warriors. They were about to discover that they had not even met humanity's real soldiers yet. The stealth ship Silent Thunder moved through space like a ghost. No sensors could detect it. No enemy could see it. Inside the ship's briefing room, 12 figures sat around a metal table. They wore black armor that seemed to drink light. Their faces were hidden behind masks that looked like human skulls. Lieutenant Colonel Han stood at the front of the room. He was tall and thin, with gray eyes that seemed to see everything. When he spoke, his voice was quiet, but every word was clear. The Krolix Empire thinks they understand human warfare, Han said. They have studied our battles for 50 years. They know how our regular soldiers fight. They know our tactics and our weapons. They think they are ready for us. Han pressed a button and the room's walls became giant screens. They showed the attacks on human colonies, burning cities, destroyed ships, families running for their lives. They are wrong, Han continued. Today, the Krolix will learn the difference between human soldiers and human commandos. One of the masked figures raised her hand. Colonel, what are our orders? Han smiled, but it was not a kind smile. Master Sergeant Bayek, your team will take the Krolix flagship. Capture their admiral alive. We need to know how many ships they have and where they plan to attack next. Beck nodded. She was shorter than Han, but moved like a dangerous cat. Her armor had no weapons on it, but her hands looked like they could break steel. Captain Song, Han said to another figure, your team will hit their main supply depot in the Zerion system. Destroy everything. Make sure they cannot feed their army. Song was young for a captain, maybe 30 years old, but her eyes were ancient and cold. Understood, Colonel. How much damage should we cause? All of it, Han replied. Leave nothing that can be used again. The third team leader was Warrant Officer Kim. He was the biggest of the commandos, with scars on his arms that looked like claw marks. Kim, you have the most important job, Han said. You're going to the Krolix homeworld, their capital city, their main government building. Kim's voice was deep and rough. What's the mission, sir? You're going to walk into their most secure building and deliver a message from humanity. The other commandos looked at Kim. Walking into the Krolyk's capital was impossible. The planet had defense systems that could destroy entire fleets. The city was protected by millions of soldiers. The government building was a fortress that had never been breached. Just walk in? Kim asked. Just walk in, Han confirmed. The Krolyks need to understand that nowhere is safe from humans when we decide to act. Their homeworld, their capital, their most protected building. If we can reach those places, we can reach anywhere. Han pressed another button. The screen showed detailed maps of Krolyk's ships and planets. For 100 years, we have let the galaxy see only our regular people, Han said. Teachers who learned to fight. Farmers who became soldiers. Shopkeepers who picked up weapons to defend their homes. The galaxy thinks those people represent human military power. He paused and looked at each commando. They don't know about us. They don't know about the Shadow Battalion. They don't know about humans who were born to be warriors. Humans who have trained their entire lives for war. Humans who have pushed their bodies and minds beyond normal limits. Staff Sergeant O spoke up. She was the team's technical expert, able to understand and use any alien technology. Colonel, the Krolyks have been planning this attack for years. Their intelligence is perfect. Their weapons are the best in the galaxy. Their armor can stop anything we have. Han's smile got wider. That's what makes this fun, oh. They prepared for everything humans have shown them. They didn't prepare for what we've been hiding. The briefing continued for 2 hours. Han explained every detail of the missions. The commandos asked questions and made plans. But they were not worried. They had trained for situations exactly like this. When the briefing ended, the commandos went to their equipment rooms. Each warrior had gear that no regular soldier had ever seen. Weapons that could cut through any armor. Tools that could hack into any computer. Devices that could make a human invisible, silent, and almost impossible to detect. Master Sergeant Back put on her infiltration suit. It was made of special material that could change color and texture to match any surface. With it, she could stick to walls like a spider and move without making any sound. Captain Song checked her demolition kit. It contained explosives that were smaller than coins but could destroy entire buildings. She also had devices that could turn enemy weapons against their owners. Warrant Officer Kim tested his stealth field generator. When activated, it bent light around him, making him nearly invisible. But more importantly, it also blocked psychic scans, heat detection, and most alien senses. The other commandos prepared their own special equipment. Each piece of gear was designed for impossible missions. Equipment that could let humans do things that aliens thought were fantasy. As the silent thunder approached the first target, Han gathered his warriors one more time. Remember, he told them, we are not just fighting for the human colonies under attack. We are fighting to show the galaxy who we really are. For a century, they have feared regular humans. After today, they will understand that regular humans were just the beginning. The ship's pilot, Lieutenant Park, announced over the intercom, we're approaching the drop zone. Stealth pods are ready for launch. The commandos walked to the launch bay. 12 small pods waited for them, each one designed to be completely invisible to enemy sensors. The pods could carry a single warrior through space and land them anywhere without being detected. Beck's team entered their pods first. Their target was the massive Krolyk's flagship that commanded the entire invasion fleet. The ship was 20 miles long and protected by shields that could stop planet-killing weapons. See you when this is over, Beck said to the other team leaders. Try not to have too much fun, Song replied. Kim just nodded. His mission was the most dangerous, but he looked calm and ready. The pods launched in complete silence. They separated and flew toward their different targets. The Krolyk sensors detected nothing. Their computers showed empty space where death was approaching. Beck's pod approached the flagship from below. The massive ship looked like a metal mountain floating in space. Thousands of weapons covered its hull. Millions of Krolyk's warriors lived and worked inside it. The pod landed on the ship's outer hull without making a sound. Beck stepped out, wearing her infiltration suit. Immediately, the suit changed color to match the ship's metal surface. She became almost invisible. Using special tools, Beck cut a small hole in the hull. The ship's emergency systems sealed the breach automatically, but by then she was already inside. She moved through the ventilation shafts like a ghost, heading toward the command center. Song's team approached the supply depot in the Xerion system. The depot was built inside a huge asteroid and protected by automated defense platforms. Ships came and went constantly, bringing food, fuel, and weapons to the Krolix invasion force. Song's pod attached itself to the bottom of a supply ship just as it was landing. When the ship entered the asteroid's docking bay, Song slipped out and hid in the shadows. Her team followed her, each warrior moving with perfect silence. The Krolix workers in the depot never saw them coming. Kim's mission was the strangest of all. His pod flew straight toward the Krolix homeworld, a planet covered in massive cities and defense systems. Billions of Krolix lived there, protected by the most advanced military technology in the galaxy. Kim's pod was different from the others. Instead of landing secretly, it activated a special device that made it look like a damaged Krolix shuttle. The planet's defense systems detected it but did not attack, thinking it was one of their own ships in trouble. The pod crashed in a forest outside the capital city. Kim climbed out, no longer wearing his human armor. Instead, he wore a perfect disguise that made him look like a Krolix warrior. The disguise was so good that even Krolix scanners would be fooled. Kim began walking toward the city. He had memorized every street, every building, every security checkpoint. His mission was simple in concept but impossible in execution. Walk into the most protected building in Krolix space and deliver humanity's message. As the three teams began their missions, Admiral Ko received a message from General Choi. Admiral, the Commandos have been deployed. In 6 hours, the Krolix will understand what they have started. Ko looked at the tactical display showing the ongoing battles. Human colonies were still under attack. Human ships were still being destroyed. Human people were still dying. What should I tell the colony commanders? Ko asked. Tell them to hold on a little longer, Choi replied. Tell them that help is coming. Tell them that the Krolix are about to learn why the galaxy fears humanity. Ko nodded and opened communication channels to all human forces. Her message went out to every battle, every colony, every ship that was fighting the Krolix invasion. All human forces, this is Admiral Ko. Continue fighting. Do not surrender. Do not retreat. In a few hours, the Krolix Empire will discover that they made the biggest mistake in their history. She paused, thinking about the 12 warriors now moving through enemy territory. They attacked our regular people, our farmers, teachers, and shopkeepers who learned to fight when they had to. Now they're going to meet our real warriors. The Commandos are coming. Master Sergeant Bayek moved through the Krolix flagship like a shadow. The massive ship had over 1 million corridors, but she knew exactly where to go. Human intelligence had been watching Krolix ships for decades, learning their designs and weak points. The infiltration suit made her almost invisible, but Bayek relied on more than technology. She moved in ways that the ship's sensors could not track. When security cameras turned toward her, she was already gone. When motion detectors scanned an area, she moved in patterns that made the machines think she was just air movement. Krolix warriors walked past her without seeing her. Their armor was impressive, but their eyes were designed to spot large threats. They could not see a small human who moved like liquid shadow. Bayek reached the ship's main computer core. It was protected by energy shields and guarded by 12 Krolix soldiers. Each guard was 9 feet tall and carried weapons that could destroy tanks. But they were looking for enemies who would attack directly. Bayek climbed onto the ceiling and moved across it like a spider. The guards never looked up. In their military training, enemies always attacked from ground level. The idea of a warrior moving on the ceiling was so strange to them that their brains simply ignored the possibility. She dropped silently behind the last guard and touched a small device to his armor. The device sent a signal that made his armor's computer think everything was normal, even though the guard was now unconscious. She did the same to all 12 guards, moving so quickly that none of them had time to raise an alarm. The computer core's security system was the most advanced in the galaxy. It had defenses that could stop any known hacking attempt. But Staff Sergeant O had taught Beck something important. Alien computers were designed to stop alien hackers. They had never encountered human thinking. Beck connected a small device to the computer. Instead of trying to hack the system directly, the device made the computer think it was receiving routine maintenance from a Krolix technician. The security programs let it connect without any resistance. Within minutes, Bayek had access to the entire Krolix invasion plan. She could see every ship, every target, every secret strategy. The invasion was even bigger than humans had thought. The Krolix planned to destroy 30 human colonies, not just 12. But now Beck could stop them. she began changing the fleet's orders. Instead of attacking human colonies, she programmed the ships to attack empty space. Instead of coordinating their movements, she made them fly in circles. Instead of working together, the massive fleet would become confused and helpless. The changes would not take effect for another hour, when the next update cycle began. But when they did, the Krolix invasion would collapse into chaos. Meanwhile, Captain Song and her team had reached the heart of the supply depot. The asteroid was hollow inside, filled with warehouses that stretched for miles. Millions of tons of supplies were stored here: food, fuel, weapons, and spare parts for the entire Krolix war machine. Song's demolition kit contained enough explosives to destroy a city, but she did not need to use them all. O had taught her about chain reactions and weak points. A small explosion in the right place could cause much bigger disasters. The depot's power systems were centralized. One main reactor powered the entire facility. Song placed a single small explosive on the reactor's control system. When it went off, the reactor would not explode. Instead, it would overload and send too much power through the depot's electrical systems. Every computer would fry. Every machine would break. Every automated system would fail. The depot would not be destroyed, but it would be completely useless. The Krolix would have millions of tons of supplies that they could not access, count, or transport. Song also sabotaged the depot's communication systems. Instead of sending normal reports to the Krolix fleet, the depot would now send false information. It would report that supplies were running low when the warehouses were full. It would request emergency shipments of things that were not needed. The false reports would make the Krolix commanders think their supply lines were failing. They would panic and make bad decisions, sending ships to fix problems that did not exist. But Song was not finished. She placed her remaining explosives throughout the depot, but she did not set them to go off immediately. Instead, she programmed them to explode randomly over the next several weeks. Every few days, something would blow up somewhere in the depot. The Krolix would never know when or where the next explosion would happen. The constant threat would drive them crazy. They would spend more time looking for bombs than moving supplies. Fear would make them inefficient and paranoid. Song's team finished their work and prepared to leave. As they moved toward their extraction point, Song smiled. The Krolix had the biggest supply depot in the galaxy, but it would soon become their biggest headache. Warrant Officer Kim walked through the streets of the Krolix capital city. His disguise was perfect. He looked exactly like a Krolix warrior returning from battle. Other Krolix nodded to him respectfully as he passed. The capital city was massive, with buildings that reached into the clouds and streets that could hold 1 million people. It was the center of an empire that ruled 47 star systems. The greatest military civilization in the galaxy lived here, protected by weapons that could destroy entire fleets. Kim walked calmly through security checkpoints that could detect any weapon, any explosive, any threat. The scanners examined him carefully but found nothing dangerous. That was because Kim was not carrying any weapons. He was the weapon. The government building was a pyramid made of black metal surrounded by energy shields and guard towers. 10,000 Krolix soldiers protected it. Automated defense systems watched every approach. No enemy had ever gotten within a mile of the building. Kim walked up to the main gate and presented fake identification papers. The guards scanned the papers and checked them against their database. The papers were perfect because O had created them using the Krolix government's own computer systems. "Purpose of visit?" asked the guard captain. "Emergency report from the human front," Kim replied in perfect Krolix language. "For the high command only." The captain looked at Kim's fake rank insignia. According to the papers, Kim was a decorated war hero, bringing urgent news from the battle zones. The captain saluted and waved him through. Kim entered the most secure building in Krolix space. He took an elevator to the top floor where the Empire's military leaders worked. His false identification got him past every checkpoint, every scanner, every security system. Finally, Kim reached the office of Supreme General Vextar, the leader of the entire Krolix military. 2 guards stood outside the door, but they let Kim pass after checking his papers again. Kim entered the office. Supreme General Vextar was huge, even by Krolix standards. He had 8 arms instead of 6, and his armor was covered in medals from 100 victories. "Report." Vextar commanded without looking up from his tactical displays. Kim walked to the center of the room and stood at attention. Supreme General, I bring a message from humanity. Vextar looked up, confused. From humanity? You mean from human prisoners? No, sir. From humanity itself. Kim reached up and removed his helmet. His human face was revealed to the shocked Krolix general. Vextar jumped up, reaching for his weapons. But Kim did not move to attack. He just stood there, calm and relaxed. How did you get here? Vextar demanded. This building is impossible to infiltrate. Nothing is impossible for humans who really try, Kim replied. That is the message I came to deliver. Vextar hit his alarm button. Security alerts screamed throughout the building. Thousands of guards began running toward the office. You think your little trick matters? Vextar snarled. One human infiltrator cannot stop our invasion. Our fleet is already destroying your colonies, Kim smiled. Actually, your fleet is currently flying in circles, attacking empty space. Your supply depot is sabotaged and sending false reports, and your invasion plans are now in human hands. Vextar's eyes went wide. He checked his communication devices. Reports were coming in from across the Empire. The flagship was not responding to orders. The supply depot was reporting impossible equipment failures. Ship commanders were requesting new instructions because their current orders made no sense. Impossible, Vextar whispered. You studied human tactics for 50 years, Kim said. But you only studied our regular soldiers. Farmers who learned to fight. Teachers who picked up weapons. Shopkeepers who became warriors when they had to. Kim took a step forward. Vextar, despite being 3 times Kim's size and surrounded by weapons, took a step back. You never studied us, Kim continued. The humans who were born for war. The humans who trained their entire lives to be perfect warriors. The humans who can do things that other humans think are impossible. The office door exploded inward as Krolix soldiers rushed in. They surrounded Kim with dozens of weapons pointed at him. Kim did not seem worried. Your invasion is over, General. Your fleet is confused. Your supplies are sabotaged. Your plans are compromised. You can kill me, but it won't change anything. Vextar stared at the human who had walked into his most secure building like it was a public park. What do you want? Surrender, Kim said simply. Pull your forces back to your own territory. End the invasion. Do this and humanity will show mercy. And if we refuse? 6 months after the Krolix surrender, Ambassador Kang stood before the Galactic Council again. But this time the Great Hall was different. The floating seats were arranged in new patterns. Many species had requested to sit closer to the human delegation. Others had moved as far away as possible. The air in the hall felt heavier. When Kang walked to the speaking platform, the silence was complete. No one whispered. No one moved. Thousands of alien eyes watched him with a mixture of respect and terror. Behind Kang, Commander Yoon stood in her usual place, but now she wore new insignia on her uniform. The council had created a new position for her, Director of Human Military Affairs. 17 different species had requested human protection from other threats. They all wanted to hire human soldiers to defend their worlds. Honored council members, Kang began. 6 months ago, the Krolix Empire launched an invasion of human space. They brought 500 warships and attacked 12 colonies without warning. They expected an easy victory against what they thought were primitive farmers and merchants. A few council members shifted uncomfortably. They remembered voting to give humans expansion rights, but only because they were afraid to say no. Now they wondered if they had made a terrible mistake. The invasion lasted exactly 18 hours, Kang continued. Not because our colonies fell, but because the Krolix surrendered. They are now paying reparations to every family they harmed. They have also agreed to share their advanced technology with human scientists. High Priest Morthek of the Thaxian Empire raised one of his 4 arms. Ambassador Kang, the council must ask, what really happened during those 18 hours? Our intelligence networks heard impossible stories. Human warriors appearing and disappearing like ghosts. Entire Krolix fleets becoming confused and lost. A human soldier walking into the Krolix capital and meeting with their supreme general. Kang nodded. The stories are true, High Priest. But they are not mysterious. They are simply the result of proper preparation. Dr. Park sat in the human section watching the alien delegates. She had been promoted to Director of Human Research Coordination. Her new job was to study requests from other species who wanted to understand human capabilities. The requests came in every day now. The Altarians wanted to know how humans could survive in poisoned environments. The Vectar wanted to understand human immune systems. The slow-moving turtle people wanted to learn how humans could function without sleep for weeks. But the most common request was about the Commandos. Everyone wanted to know who they were and how they had done impossible things. Dr. Park had prepared a presentation for the council, but she knew she could only share part of the truth. Some secrets needed to stay secret. Dr. Park will now explain the scientific basis for recent human military actions, Kang announced. Dr. Park walked to the presentation area. She was small and looked harmless, but several alien delegates moved back in their seats when she approached. Council members, Dr. Park began. Many species have asked about human commandos. You want to know how they accomplish tasks that seem impossible? The answer is actually quite simple. They represent human potential when it is fully developed. She pressed a button and the hall's screen showed images of human anatomy. Most species reach their evolutionary peak and then stop growing. Humans are different. We never stop adapting and improving. What you call our regular soldiers are actually humans who learned military skills as adults. They had other jobs first, teaching, farming, building, healing. The screens showed images of human colonies and cities. But some humans are born with different gifts. They show military talent from childhood. We train these individuals from a young age, developing their natural abilities to the maximum possible level. Dr. Park paused and looked around the hall. She could see fear in many alien faces. The result is warriors who can do things that other humans consider difficult and that other species consider impossible. They can control their heartbeat, their breathing, their body temperature. They can move without making sound. They can think in ways that confuse enemy computers and sensors. She showed new images. Humans in training, learning to climb walls, to survive in hostile environments, to use alien technology. But the most important difference is mental. Regular human soldiers fight to defend their homes and families. Commandos fight because it is their life's purpose. They have spent decades preparing for war. They know every alien species, every type of technology, every possible battle scenario. A small, furry delegate from the 6R system spoke up. Dr. Park, how many of these commandos do humans have? Dr. Park smiled, but it was not a warm smile. I cannot give exact numbers for security reasons. But I can tell you this. Every human world trains at least a few individuals to commando standards. We have been doing this for over a century. The hall became very quiet as aliens did the mathematics in their heads. Humans had colonies on over 100 worlds now. If each world had even a dozen commandos. The Krolix delegate, Admiral Kexfor, stood up slowly. He had replaced Supreme General Vextar after the invasion's failure. His voice shook when he spoke. Dr. Park, during the invasion, our intelligence estimated that humans deployed 12 special warriors. 12 individuals disabled our entire fleet. That is correct, Dr. Park confirmed. How many commandos could humanity deploy if it chose to? Dr. Park looked at Ambassador Kang. He nodded slightly. Admiral Kexivor, that depends on the situation. For a small conflict, we might send a few dozen. For a larger war, perhaps a few hundred. If humanity's survival was threatened, she paused, letting the silence stretch. We could deploy several thousand. The hall erupted in noise. Alien delegates shouted to each other in dozens of languages. The translator machines could barely keep up with all the frightened voices. Commander Yoon stepped forward and the noise stopped immediately. The Terran Federation wants peace with all species, she said. We prefer to use our commandos as teachers and protectors, not as weapons. Many of you have already hired human soldiers to defend your worlds. You have seen how effective we can be as allies. She was right. In the 6 months since the Krolix surrender, human military advisors had helped 17 species win conflicts they had been losing for years. Human tactics and training had made weak armies into strong ones. But, Yoon continued, any species that attacks human civilians will face the full response of our military. This includes both our regular forces and our commandos. The Keeper, the ancient being who led the council, spoke in her voice like wind through trees. Commander Yoon, the council must ask a difficult question. With these capabilities, why do humans still follow galactic law? Why do you not simply take whatever worlds you want? Kang answered before Yoon could speak. Because taking things by force is inefficient, Keeper. It creates enemies and wastes resources. We prefer to trade, negotiate, and cooperate. These methods create friends and build prosperity. He looked around the hall at all the alien faces. Humans could conquer many worlds. But then we would have to spend all our time fighting rebellions and defending conquered territory. Instead, we make allies who trade with us willingly and call for our help when they need protection. The Keeper nodded slowly. This is wise, but it also means that human power is greater than we imagined. If your regular soldiers are farmers and teachers, and your commandos are true warriors, what other capabilities do you possess? Kang smiled mysteriously. Keeper, I hope we never have to find out. But I can tell you this. The commandos are not our most advanced military development. They are simply our most ready one. Dr. Park added quietly. Human military science continues to advance every year. What we can do today is greater than what we could do last year. What we will be able to do next year. She left the sentence unfinished. But everyone understood the implication. After the council session ended, delegates from dozens of species approached the human section. They all had the same requests: defense agreements, military training programs, and technology exchanges. The Vectar wanted human soldiers to help them fight off raiders. The Altarians wanted human advisors to teach their armies new tactics. The Granite Prime delegates wanted to hire human engineers to improve their weapons. But the most interesting conversation came from an unexpected source. The Thaxian High Priest Morthek approached Kang privately. Ambassador, Morthek said quietly, my empire has been watching human expansion for many years. We have seen you fight impossible battles and win them. We have seen you survive in environments that kill other species. But this commando revelation changes everything. How so, High Priest? We always assumed that human success came from luck or desperate courage. Now we understand that it comes from careful planning and superior capability. This makes humans either the galaxy's greatest ally or its greatest threat. Kang nodded. Which would you prefer us to be? Morthek was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, allies. Definitely allies. The Thaxian Empire would like to discuss a mutual defense agreement. As the months passed, more species made similar requests. The galaxy's power structure was changing. Instead of fearing human expansion, most species now sought human partnership. Master Sergeant Bayek had retired from active duty and now ran the Commando Academy on a secret world.